episode 6.9.
Yeah, it is. It's episode 6.9. Again, the rerun.
The rerun. Take two.
Take two. Here we
Can't
go.
believe this is our second time recording this.
We've got a great topic, though. The recap of Joe Biden's presidency.
Sleepy Joe.
Possibly the worst president in a long time. Maybe in living memory.
Who would be worse?
Jimmy Carter's got an argument.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as far as our lifetimes.
I feel like Jimmy Carter at 102 would have done just as good of a job as fucking Joe Biden at 78 or whatever.
100%. He was still eligible to run. He could have done it again.
Jimmy Carter?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, did he only win one term?
Yeah, he was only a one-term president. So
Didn't win as the incumbent, huh?
No, he was a very bad president.
Yeah.
Just like Joe
I've
Biden.
never heard anything good about Mr. Jimmy Carter.
No.
Other than the Democrats telling or posting that he was voting for Kamala.
Yeah. Those videos were fucked up. Of them with Jimmy Carter in the wheelchair.
Yeah,
and all that shit.
like a hospital bed.
Yeah. Yeah, he was in hospice care for a while. Yeah. No, those videos are completely fucked up.
And it's kind of like, I guess, like, how do you determine if a person, like, shouldn't be, like, I feel like if you're not mentally fit, like, should you, like, be able to vote? Like, I don't know. Because it's just, like, someone voting for you. Like,
yeah, it's a slippery slope of determining who's mentally fit.
Right.
I'd say a lot of people aren't mentally fit
Right.
to vote. But we'll leave it alone. It's not that big of a deal.
If you're over 100 years old, you're out. You live so long, you don't get to vote anymore. And I'm even pushing voting at 90, I feel like once you hit 90, it's like, okay, you're done now. Yes, I think my grandma was like 90 or 91 or something. And like, she just votes like the Democrats could basically put whatever they wanted on the ballot and she would vote yes because it's a Democratic initiative or whatever,
That's a crazy take because being a 90-year-old Democrat, like when you hear people, described like that, you think of, oh, they're a Clinton Democrat.
Right.
She's an FDR Democrat.
Right.
Like,
and,
she's a Truman
like,
Democrat.
But she just views the Democrat, like, and I don't even think she's like, well, I tell her, like, what, the liberal party is now, the woke liberals are now supporting what they're doing. Most of the time, she just doesn't believe me. I'm like, Grandma, I'm serious, This part, they hate white males, young 100%. White males. And she's like, there's no way. Why would they hate you? I'm like, oh, yeah, because we're white and male. She's like, I just don't believe. So, I mean, what she sees the party of what I see the party as two very different things, But.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What do you think was the worst part of Joe Biden's presidency?
Inflation.
That's a great answer. I'm going to disagree, though, just to disagree, because I think there's two right at the top. Immigration.
Yeah. I feel like I totally agree, but the immigration to this point hasn't really affected my day-to-day, and I think if it affected more people's day-to-day life, it would be more of a talked about issue,
Definitely.
And and we totally live in a area that, if I'm kind of curious if you just polled Glenn County about immigration, which way it'd swing,
Yeah, I think we live in a highly Hispanic area, and that would influence things a lot. But if you live somewhere like
not
New York,
all those Hispanics are about illegal immigration either.
No, it's true. 100% true. It's locally, it'd be an interesting issue, but I mean, if you look at the polls for immigration, I mean, Joe Biden turned the country completely against illegal immigration. He's done better messaging for the Republican Party than the Republican Party
Yeah,
did.
for sure.
I think 57% of people are in favor of mass deportation now in the United States.
Yeah.
It was like 50% of Democrats are for deporting all illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
The 50% of Democrats.
And, and for me, I know we talked about this, I think on the last episode or 2 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. Deporting all illegal immigrants, like, I don't know. I feel like, do we need to deport everyone? Probably not, Right. I mean,
it's not even feasible.
Yeah. I like the current kind of track of what's been like, okay, we're deporting the lawbreakers. And that's, really, I mean, more how it should be.
And I think too, I'm for deporting everybody that has committed a crime, other than just crossing the border. And I'm really for deporting, the millions of people that came across like this last year.
Yeah.
People
Or
without established lives here.
I'll say maybe not established life, or if you don't have a job, you're out of here. No job, no place.
No social services.
Yeah.
For this. No, 100%. And that is becoming a wildly popular take. I mean, you would be
What you got on the what's her name? Like Ilhan, I don't know how to say her name. Ilhan Omar, the senator lady, that's like Somalian or something.
Yeah,
that
Ilhan
like
Omar.
she like had a video. She posted this video, or video was taken of her like talking to Somalian illegals, telling them how to like beat ICE.
That's ridiculous.
Elon was tweeting about it. He's like, "This is fucking stupid."
That's ridiculous.
How could you support your elected official openly breaking the law?
That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, these people. Elon Omar hates America.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would say most of these people that would rather support foreign nationals than our actual American citizens do not love America.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm all about America kind of being the melting pot and whatnot. And but I think people need to come in the proper way. We got to have some type of screening going on,
If we don't have a border, we don't have a country.
Yeah.
And people are coming around to that. I got the stats here now. Yeah, 93% of Republicans support deporting all illegal immigrants, 43% of Democrats, and 67% of independents.
Yeah.
It's wild.
That doesn't surprise me. And, really until, fucking probably Joe Biden. I mean, I don't know about Obama. I wasn't really mega paying attention to politics in Obama's last, reign, but, his second to last reign.
Right.
But I know at one point Obama was like pretty cracking down on he ran on, immigration laws and stuff too. As one of his campaign points, if I remember correctly, So is Joe Biden the first president that really just didn't give a fuck,
Well, the Obama era was kind of interesting because President Obama deported more people than President Trump did.
Right.
He deported a lot, but he didn't publicize it. He did it low key. So what that did was it still encouraged a lot of people to cross the border. So even though Obama was quietly deporting people, out loud, they were encouraging people to come to the United States and come across. And it never really made sense.
Kind of like Angel Reese, when she misses a shot, grabs her board, misses a shot, grabs her board. Now she's got 10 offensive rebounds. Obama's just, he's throwing the fish back in the water to catch him again. You're going to have some good numbers, but
he's trying to run the score up, baby. He's trying to run it up on the Don. But Obama seemed to be a little bit of a different animal. Joe Biden, I mean, and just so we're clear, throughout this whole episode, we pretty much acknowledged that Joe Biden was completely senile and probably wasn't in charge of most of these policies, but he's the president. He's the only face we have to throw our tomatoes at, and so we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you're going to be president but not be the president, you still got to take the blame like a president.
Especially you wanted to run again.
Yeah.
You fucking retarded. But so Joe Biden, he allowed the open borders, and really it was his liberal staff. I mean, you can imagine how liberal you are if you are a staffer for the White House with Joe Biden.
For sure.
So these staffers decide, well, we're going to have this de facto open borders policy here. And they don't care how important or how popular it is because, they're not the ones that's actually the president. It's not going to go down. Their name's not the one going down in history as a terrible president. They're just trying to get as many illegal
they're not the
immigrants in
figurehead
to change the demographics of this country so that they can win future elections.
Yeah.
That's what this was all about, because there is zero explanation the left even tries to put forward for why they let 10 million illegal immigrants into this country. There's just no excuse for it.
Just ask John Fetterman about it.
You shouldn't ask John Fetterman. John Fetterman can't. He had no response for it, and he's really one of the worst messengers. I know that a lot of Republicans now are like, I love John Fetterman. He's got some good takes now. The dude can't communicate. I mean,
I'll see this.
Terrible.
I've seen some videos of him where I'm like, all right, John, I see you working. But yeah, I totally agree. For the most part, it's just what the fuck.
He's just not the messenger they want. I feel bad because it's because he had a stroke and all, and not that he was like the world's greatest speaker before he had a stroke. But
hey, you know what?
it's just.
I feel like stroke or not, if I had an employee working for me and he had a stroke and he couldn't perform his job anymore, I don't know how that falls in as far as, like workplace violations to fire him or not.
They've got disability for that.
Yeah.
Man. You got to go on disability.
Seems like if you can't perform doing your job, you're out.
Yeah. Anything else you want to hit him on inflation? Oh, here. Sorry. I got another question for you. Number one is Alejandro Mayorkas. He was the Department of Homeland Security chief. He's the one in charge of the border. Is what he did allowing those 10 million people in treason? Should he be arrested?
I like where you're coming from. I don't know, because I'm just curious on if it, is he just going to be a scapegoat for the fucking Illuminati telling him to do it, or his higher ups? Like,
I don't like the excuse that I was just following orders.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bullshit. Resign then. You don't have to be secretary. Fucking resign.
I know. I feel like yes, but also no. I mean, it'd be tough to pinpoint that fiasco on one guy. You know what I mean?
I think he's a good place to start.
Yeah.
You're saying we should prosecute more people. I think that I would accept that. But for Mayorkas, man, if you're going to allow 10 million people into the country illegally,
I would
it's
say,
treason.
If you're doing the one guy, let's not stop at one. Let's bag up 100. It wasn't just one guy's fault.
This was the stated policy,
or at least
of the Biden administration.
Let's bag this guy for treason, and then before we totally bag him, send him to jail, we give him a chance to plea, and no less than 100 scalps, Nazi scalps.
Look. I hear what you're saying, but I just and here's the reason I say Mayorkas. I should have backed up and explained this. Nobody's going to convict Joe Biden of anything.
Yeah,
he's just going to sit there like a senile old man. The inspector general was right. No jury is going to convict Joe Biden of anything. You're going to put him on the stand.
Jury me. Jury Glenn County.
You're right. Yeah,
I guess that depends on where you're pulling your jury from.
Not New York or Washington, D.C.
I'm familiar with many areas full of juries that would convict Joe Biden. They don't give a fuck if he's old.
Point taken. 100% point taken.
Yeah, New York, probably not. Buffalo, maybe.
Compton, no. Glenn County, yes.
I don't know. Having just recently been to Compton and stayed on Crenshaw Boulevard, it's an up and coming neighborhood.
I'm sure you'll be invested. But okay, all right. We've beaten immigration down. It was an attempted coup on the American people, I think, to overthrow our voting base. They tried to change our voting demographics, what states looked like. They did it illegally. They should be arrested and tried for treason. And this was probably one of the biggest attacks on America.
What kind of gets me about the immigration thing is you have these anti-immigration or ICE protests now happening, in LA and whatnot. Probably Sacramento, I would guess. I mean,
yeah. No, there was one in Sacramento.
But they're all throwing around the Mexico flag, like Hispanic pride and whatnot. It's like, hey, if you love Mexico so much, should have fucking stayed there. If anything, what I want to see you waving is American flag. Maybe fucking blazing a little red, white, and blue, a little Star Spangled Banner, a little Toby Keith, and maybe my tune would change.
I have a hot take here, and it's not going to be popular with the audience, but I'm going to say it anyways. These protests you see of those people burning the American flag, all shit. So we live in a community where there are a lot of illegal immigrants that come here. We live in an agricultural community. when you look at that protest,
Yeah.
see those people.
All second, third gen.
They do not look like people that came from Mexico.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I thought that too. That's like the second generation, third generation, just liberal arts kids, or maybe, and whether their parents or grandparents came from Mexico or not, or they just immigrated here from somewhere. I thought that myself as well.
Yeah, it reminds me of the whole like Latin X argument.
Yeah,
like,
you're not getting
it's
a lot
not
of
anyone from Mexico.
Yeah, you're not getting a lot of first gen guys out there.
Not at all. And of all the people that work around here that are illegal immigrants, I've never seen one burning an American flag, like bad mouthing the United States. They love the United States. They've only been here like, a few years. They're working. They're making the most money they've ever made. These are like hardworking, normal people. They're not coming all the way from Mexico here to work to then watch Donald Trump get elected and burn American flags in the streets. Like that's just not the actual illegal immigrants here. I just don't believe it.
I totally agree. That's just the kids we grew up with.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're the Latinx kids, man. The kids that don't even speak Spanish but want to tell you that there shouldn't be gendered language.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's the kids we went to high school with. I mean,
those people, I would bet the majority of people at those protests do not even speak Spanish. Probably not even ethnically Mexican.
I don't know. I mean, I'd kind of be curious just because I feel like, a large majority of the kids we grew up with, I mean, of course there's exceptions to the rule, but a large majority of a lot of the kids we grew up with spoke Spanish,
Yeah. The protest I was looking at in LA, I mean, a lot of them did not even look Hispanic at all. Like it more looked like a BLM protest, man.
Nice.
Like we're just out here taking any opportunity we can to burn the American flag, and that's.
See, I got nothing on that. Didn't really look at the specifics of who was protesting, but I think you totally raised a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like how the intersectional argument is mostly made by like white liberal men and women. Like it's not even really like black people making this argument. It's usually white people.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But that's my take.
I think it's solid.
All right, let's jump to inflation. The next or possibly first worst thing Joe Biden did. And inflation, I mean, was obviously out of control. Again, hot take that people won't love here. I think a lot of the policies that caused the inflation started under Donald Trump.
Yeah, I also agree.
PPP,
I also agree.
The checks, the $1,400 stimulus checks, all that stuff. I mean, government spending exploded under Donald Trump.
Right.
All that stuff contributed to inflation, but Joe Biden did nothing to stop it.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong. When did the PPP? Because they did like the PPP loans, then they did another round of them. But was the second round under Joe Biden or was it still under Trump?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because then they did another loan program deal after that. I forget what that one was called. Mm-hmm. Like the where you kind of got your like taxes back or your payroll taxes back or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that one was under Biden.
Yes, that one was. I don't remember the name of that program.
And I'll put it this way. I know a fair amount of people who own businesses that should not have gotten those loans.
100%.
But did.
Yeah, 100%.
I kind of viewed it as a tax refund of sorts, but were a lot of people in our area that were getting those loans affected by, the Kung flu? Mm-hmm. Not really. I mean, kind of. Not really. Should we have gotten them? Probably not, But we are on such a small end of it, I think there's, much bigger companies that were really taking advantage of it. That probably made out a lot better than all the small guys did, So what do you do?
Yeah, and that kind of inflation and COVID, I think, should kind of be looped together because they do go hand in hand. The whole COVID thing,
but I think
was
the other brutal thing that
brutal
almost made it worse for Joe was their almost denial of inflation. Like then like they're denying that there's inflation. Then they're trying to tell everyone inflation's a good thing. And it was just like, if they had just came out and were like, yep, there's going to be some inflation, it's mainly Trump's fault, but some of it's our fault. They would have been miles ahead in public opinion.
Yeah. And it comes back to an interesting point that the government.
Well, that and I guess 100%. The fucking Ukraine spending,
yeah,
that's pretty big.
That was 2022, though. I think that started. So I mean, inflation was starting, but before that,
right.
I got the numbers here. In 2021, inflation was 7%, which was a record high. Then in 2022, it was 6.5%. The Ukraine war, I think, starts there in early 2022. Then you've got 3.4% in 2023. And I just want to point out here, too, the way government measures inflation is complete bullshit. It is way higher than that. They don't correctly weight the expenses that the average family takes on. So, gas is not weighted high enough. Insurance is not weighted high enough. They do that to artificially lower the inflation rate so they don't look bad. And then also a lot of government payments are gradated on the inflation rate. So the more they fudge that inflation rate to be down, the more money the government can save not paying people out what they should, like COLA payments and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's that. Yes. What you're saying about them lying, totally true. Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, is a complete hack. She should never be allowed to hold a government
There's a
position
period
again.
of, I don't know, 6 months or so, where it's just like, I know more about economics than the fucking person in charge of economics knows about economics.
But
I took fucking introduction to business in college, motherfucker.
Here's what I don't believe. I don't believe Janet Yellen is an idiot. I believe she's a liar.
Yeah.
I think they knew that inflation was there to stay,
I would totally agree.
And they were just trying to buy time to figure it out what was going on. If you print $2.3 trillion and you don't know inflation's coming, you're a fucking
they're
idiot.
We're trying to buy time to figure out an excuse or whatever. They never had an excuse.
Yeah.
It's buy time to do what? Just fucking jerk off a little bit more?
And it's inflation's kind of a tricky thing, because government spending had gone up for decades without inflation going up. So I think that there were truly people there at the Treasury Department that thought, hey, if we just print like a fuck ton more money, then maybe inflation won't go up. But the problem is when you print a fuck ton of money and then your economy contracts because no one's working because they're all at home. And then on top of that, you have supply chain issues. Dude, inflation's going to explode.
And I mean, really
it's easy to understand.
From my understanding is the U.S. fared pretty well compared to a lot of other countries, from an inflationary standpoint. But that just, can you imagine how fucked up it is in other countries? It's just like.
Well, that's part of the reason is they use the dollar as their reserve currency. And it's a whole nother getting into the weeds of why inflation is going to affect these other countries more than it's going to affect us. But we'll leave that to another boring episode. But for Joe Biden, I mean, inflation, if you're looking at the, the Build Back Better Act or that.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a great one that I forgot here too. The Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah. I haven't heard that name in many moons.
The Inflation Reduction Act. It should be illegal to name things like the most 1984 doublespeak laws. I mean, the Inflation Reduction Act cost a shit ton of our inflation.
Yep.
Let me look up just the cost. Okay. The Inflation Reduction Act is estimated to cost between $1 and $4 trillion.
Nice.
Because they haven't spent all the money yet, even though it passed. So that's still just an estimate. Could you imagine? I don't know how, and granted, props to the American people. They didn't fall for it because they kicked Joe Biden out. But can you imagine how stupid you have to think the American people are to print $1 trillion and name it the Inflation Reduction Act?
Well,
I mean, you have to think we are the stupidest people to ever live.
And, for the most part, I think a lot of people are. I mean,
we can't be that dumb. I mean, they threw Joe Biden out of office.
But
so
maybe like a third,
I'll buy that.
More than you would think.
I'll buy that. I like a third. That just feels like the right number.
Yeah, just because, dude, I don't know. I have some real fucking stars that come in and either have work for me or apply for jobs or whatever. And it's just like, you live on your own? Really?
I don't understand too this Build Back Better Act, right? Which is $2.2 trillion.
Yep,
Just
yep.
in case you're keeping track of.
I
why
forget how
inflation's
much
here.
money they were that was going to go to the electric car chargers on fucking I-80 or whatever.
Oh yeah,
But I think they've built like 4 chargers or some shit.
yeah, for like $1 billion. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. But so this $2.2 trillion, okay, for the Build Back Better Act. For
Was anything built?
it,
No.
Well, here you go. 555 billion dollars for clean energy
Nice.
and climate change.
Nice.
400 billion for childcare and preschools. I'll admit I don't have kids, so I couldn't tell you whether that's better or not.
I hope that, just knowing some young parents out there, I hope that, I doubt it went to where it needed to go. I really hope it did.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I could get behind childcare stuff. I want to encourage people to have kids, but $2.2 trillion for infrastructure. Is your road any better? Mine's not.
I'll say, my road's fucking shit.
I did just watch the government repave a road that didn't fucking need it.
Yeah. Dude, I feel like at least in our local community, most of the roads they repave are not the ones that need it.
Yeah. Genius stuff.
But even I-5, man, I mean, I-5 has to be one of the most traveled highways or interstates in the country, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm sure there's some East Coast stuff that is more traveled.
Sure.
Possibly. Feel like I-5's hit pretty fucking hard. And there's giant fucking ruts down the middle of it,
Mm-hmm.
This thing is a nonstop line of semi-trucks, 24/7, and we have ruts in the middle of the road. I mean, we have ruts because it's nonstop, but why don't you repair that?
Yeah. Instead of fixing the road that gets 20 cars a day that you repaved last year. Yeah. 100%. It's Build Back Better. These big, but here's the whole point. This is why we're so against this big bloated federal government is you allocate $2.2 trillion towards random infrastructure shit. So then you pass it down to the states and they take some from the grant. Then you pass it down to the county level and they take some to administer the grant. By the time it actually gets down to, the county supervisor's brother who got the bid for 4 times more than it should have been, half the fucking money's been stolen by bureaucrats and corruption. So none of the shit ever gets done the way it's supposed to. They only pave the road because it's, in front of the mayor's house or some bullshit. Yeah. It's all fucked up.
And I know I've told you this before, but, we make some airplane parts. And a lot of times, the person we make the airplanes parts for orders the material, sends it to us. We machine the part. And they pick it up. Then they send it to their customer, who sends it to their customer, who sends it to their customer. And it's like a 5 to 6 step fucking, railway where it's the same part. Nothing's happening to it. It's just marked up 50 to 100%, marked up 50 to 100%. Because, this guy can't deal directly with, Boeing or the DOD. But this guy knows the guy that can deal with the DOD or whatever,
Yep.
So,
who knows the senator's brother who won the no-bid contract.
Right.
Yep.
So
100%.
So we really get the short end of the stick, being the lowest guy on the totem pole.
Yep.
Typically the least profitable position, but who am I to complain,
But that's why we believe in a small federal government with a stronger state government and even stronger local governments, because instead of 2.2 trillion for infrastructure at the federal level, what we should be doing is not taxing people much at the federal level at all. So that way local governments have room to tax these people to fix the roads that they know need to be fixed.
I think in our scenario, like a local government, I guess by local, I guess it'd be a matter of if our state government's taxing us, because, if it was just like, okay, federal taxes are low, California taxes are high, to make up for the federal difference, and that money's going to go to roads. They don't give a fuck about the roads up here,
Exactly.
I mean, so we're going to get shafted either way.
Exactly. But we are in kind of a unique state that is massive with a
Right,
ton of
right,
people.
right.
I think there are a lot of state governments out there where the people are highly enfranchised, meaning there's a lot less people in the state, so their vote counts
Yeah,
for a lot
yeah.
more. Where this, the federalist system works better.
Right. No, I agree.
And that's why I would argue even in California, the state government shouldn't be that strong. It should be local governments because the
Right.
state is so large. But everybody already
Now
knew.
you're
That's how I felt.
now you're getting into my realm of we really should stop paying taxes as a county or maybe as a tri-county area and just wing it.
Or we should start paying our taxes to the Idaho state government in Boise so they
Yes.
can annex us and we can.
And we can plead our cases about why Glenn County should be let in and not draw the line at Tehimama.
Yeah, just north of us, 5 miles from the state that we actually want to be in. But since we're just, continuing down Joe Biden's list of achievements here, so he had these bills passed that were horrible for inflation, Orwellian shit like the Inflation Reduction Act that actually increased inflation. The whole Democrat theory here is complete horseshit. They don't know anything about economics. They have no answer to how to bring down inflation. All they know how to do is take people's money and spend.
Right.
And that's why
And it
you were
sounds
seeing
good,
those articles where, inflation's not happening. Now it's actually good. Like you were talking about, the whole steps of denial and all that shit. The reason they have to do that is because their economic theories don't work if you assume that government spending equals inflation.
Right.
And it just, everything breaks down for them because they believe in this whole like Keynesian economic system where government spending is actually good for the economy and actually helps people.
Right.
And most of it's just not true. And that's why they have no answer for this election.
I feel like there's something to that. I mean, that's kind of why Trump started the PPP loan thing, right? In the sense of he was trying to get some money back into the economy and with the stimulus checks and everything. So I might not just be totally the liberal sided, but
we'd have been better off not shutting businesses down to begin with.
Yeah,
that
I agree.
is the answer.
I agree.
Not shutting them down and then printing more money because it's just the inflation came and the bill. There's no such thing as magic in economics. You can print billions of dollars and call it PPP and print billions more and call it stimulus checks, but the bill comes due. You're not really making any more value.
And really, as far as the inflation things goes, the people that really got hosed are the fucking non-asset holding people, or it's
100%.
Well, I didn't own a house, and now I'm even farther away from fucking buying my house, or I didn't have a retirement. Ironically, when I really started investing in my retirement account, it had like a 0% gain for fucking 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Like I'm wasting the prime of my retirement account investing years with that zero. At one point, I think I was like 2 years in. I would have been better off just keeping the cash in a fucking savings account. This is fucked up.
Yeah, I do want to make a quick point with that for people that don't understand why Democrats, allow inflation to happen and will spend anyways. There are two people that benefit when inflation happens. Number one, it's rich people that own a lot of assets. Because if you own a lot of stock, you own a lot of properties, when inflation happens, the value of those properties skyrockets along with inflation, just like your tomatoes at the grocery store.
Because the value of the property doesn't change, just the price in dollars does.
That's right. And then, but here's the second part of that too. And then here's the second person that really benefits when there's inflation. Rich people typically who have taken out loans for low interest rates really benefit when inflation happens, because if you want to determine what the real interest rate is on a loan, you have to take the interest rate and subtract inflation. So if your interest rate on your house, from 2019 is 3% and inflation is 7%, you're gaining 4% of value by having the loan. It's hard to imagine, and it doesn't seem like that's right, but that's what's going on. The banks are getting hosed there. But rich people who took out loans and bought assets at low interest rates, they make out like bandits during inflation. What they are doing is all the value, that you're now having to spend to pay higher prices at the grocery store is being transferred to people with lots of assets. And that's how the rich keep getting richer while the poor keep getting poorer. Okay. Inflation is a tax on the middle class and the lower class. Okay. And the rich, it all goes to the rich. That's why the largest wealth transfer in human history just happened during COVID.
Yeah.
So,
Fuckers.
yep. That's my rant on inflation there. So, all right. I feel like we've hammered him pretty good on Build Back Better, inflation, COVID. I mean, it was probably the most authoritarian shit that our government's done since the internment camps. We can talk about COVID for just a little bit, but the fact that the government invented powers to tell us that we can't go to church, that we can't go to restaurants, they can shut businesses down. I mean, it was horse shit, and there's no constitutional grounding for any of it.
Not only that, but say we actually do have a, more legitimate health crisis where we really do need to do that stuff,
Right. Something with like a above 1% mortality rate.
Yeah. Where people are actually really dying quite, frequently, now everyone's, if it happens in our lifetime, the distrust of if this is, actually happening or not is just going to be absolutely massive,
Yeah. And I think that they honestly, because we know COVID happened under Donald Trump, I think the left decided to play up COVID as a way to, crash the economy so Donald Trump would lose the election.
100% agree.
I believe that completely.
Yeah, 100% agree. They really made him out like a villain. And the ironic part was, it's like, this is just something that always sticks with me is, Trump was trying to like shut down all the flights here, right when it first started. And he was a fucking huge fucking racist bad guy, for how could you, deny these people access to our country and blah, 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 blah. And then, they just fucking hammer on this guy for not doing that. It's like, you guys are the ones that fucking told me not to.
They have no way the only way to attack Donald Trump on COVID is to attack him from the right. And the left has no standing for that. They wanted to lock shit down more. They wanted to force you to take the COVID jab even more. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I think one of the most authoritarian things Joe Biden ever attempted to do was to use OSHA to mandate 80 million people get the COVID vax. Yeah. I mean, talk about the left likes to talk about, Donald Trump's a fascist, he's an authoritarian. That is so fucking authoritarian to try and force people to take this jab. Good. Yeah, exactly. It's just was that a Joseph Stalin quote?
Yeah.
Or Lenin? I can't remember.
Or Joe Biden.
Yeah, or Joe Biden. Who knows? One of the two. But just complete leftist authoritarian.
No, I totally agree. It was and it probably the lingering effects is it cost the Democrats an election. I mean, that and really it just destroyed the public's trust in the government, in the corporate media, basically in everything. Yeah,
and that's such a good take because. Not only did it destroy the trust in all the things you just named, but also, and this is a great thing, it destroyed trust in international agencies like WHO, these just completely corrupted leeches. Their one fucking goal, the World Health Organization, is to prepare for shit like this. And what do you know? They didn't have any answers. They helped China cover it up.
Yeah,
they're the fucking worst. I'm glad Donald Trump defunded them because if you can't help us with COVID, you're the World Health Organization, you shouldn't exist.
And it's kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, it started in a lab in China. No, it didn't. That's racist to say. Oh, it's like, it's like that senator, that video we sent the other day where it's like, yeah, the what do you call it? Conspiracy theorists are like up 31-0 right now.
Yeah,
like that's Kennedy. A thing, It's just like if all these conspiracy and I pride myself in being a little conspiracy theorist, and it's kind of like all these conspiracies are just fucking true now. It's just like, and there's no denying it, and it's just such a tough fucking look, man. I mean, for the Democratic Party, it's just.
I got the video here for you.
Yeah, there we go.
It's a great video.
If you're not ticking off some people, you're not doing your job right.
My colleague and friend Senator Durbin called you a conspiracy theorist. You remember that?
I do,
is in the
Senator.
Kash Patel hearing.
You were instrumental in revealing that the Trump-Russia election collusion hoax was a hoax, weren't you?
Yes, sir. I was the lead investigator.
Sounds to me like we need to get some new conspiracy theories because all the old ones turned out to be true.
Facts matter, Senator.
Yeah. I mean, conspiracy theorists are up something like 37 and nothing.
Which, I mean, fuck, it's a tough look when all the conspiracy theorists are right,
Yep. And that does, here's another issue that just bleeds right into COVID. And what I want to talk about next, anyways, was tech censorship.
Yeah.
Senator Tom Cotton was censored off of YouTube, Google. He was fact checked by the New York Times for saying that the COVID-19 virus came from a lab in China. It was called a debunked conspiracy theory. Yeah. They kicked him off all sorts of platforms, wouldn't allow his posts to be out there. And it was fucking true.
I know. I mean,
it was true.
I don't want to call it a public revolution because I don't think we're at that point yet. But just voting for Trump, I really think it could have been, a lot of different people could have ran against Kamala. Or against Joe or whoever, and won just because of that fucking shit,
Yep. A glass of water, as long as it ran as a Republican.
Yeah.
We'd have been fine.
I mean, it's kind of like, I want to say it was kind of like Joe Biden running against Trump. But kind of to that extent, it's just need someone up there with a fucking pulse to defeat the bad guy,
Yep. So we just so we can keep this theme consistent here, Joe Biden at every turn decided to take the authoritarian left route. Whether it was trying to mandate businesses shut down, whether it was mandating that people take the COVID jab, whether it was working, and we know this now, that the Biden administration was calling Facebook, yelling at them and cussing them out for not censoring memes.
Yep.
The most blatant First Amendment violations you could imagine, this administration did that. And they are not going to face any repercussions, even though they should. I don't know. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. I don't know what the repercussions are for the government violating the First Amendment.
Death penalty.
People should, people should be in prison at least. If you are one of these government workers that was calling Facebook doing shit, you should be investigated, you should be arrested, and you should face jail time because our government is not allowed to take that step. That is way too fucking far past the Constitution.
Yep.
And the fact that Joe Biden did this it's going to be a stain on his record, long past his death.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be his legacy is authoritarianism in the United States. And he lost, and everybody I shouldn't say everybody, most people I feel like are happy he lost. I feel like even if you're a Democrat and Joe Biden lost, I think you're kind of happy that you get to move on from this Joe Biden camera.
Yeah.
Like even I feel like even if you're a Democrat, I'm trying to get in the shoes of like a leftist here. Like there's no way Joe Biden was your guy. Like you just want someone else. And Republicans know how that feels, man. Like looking back at George Bush and the Iraq war and stuff, man.
Right.
Like even as a Republican, you got to like, man, we could have done better.
Yeah. I feel like it's tough finding a president where you can't, I feel like in recent memory, just be like, yeah, that guy did a good job.
Yeah. But Joe Biden's the worst. At least, say what you will about Obama, and I have no love for Obama. He was not the authoritarian Joe Biden was. Or that at least Joe Biden's administration was.
Right. Well, Obama's third term.
At least, yeah. Well, there you go. Big Mike was actually in the office.
Big Michelle.
But for tech censorship, I mean, I think we talk about this a lot. I don't feel the need to belabor this point. I mean, but it will live on as one of the gross overreaches by the Biden administration, and probably one of the top instances of their disregard of the Constitution and the rights of Americans.
And it really pushed Zuckerberg to get into archery.
Hey, good for Zuck, man. Good for him.
I
hope he shoots him straight.
Do you believe that Zuckerberg actually goes bow hunting?
Not a chance.
And did you catch that part of the podcast with Rogan?
Yeah, I did.
And he didn't even know the brand of his bow.
Yeah, tough. If you don't know, fuck, man, it's either Hoyt or Matthews. Probably just pick one.
I don't know. There's a couple others out there. Where it could be like a PSE or something.
Throw Hoyt or Matthews out there. No one's gonna.
Yeah, but if he said Hoyt, Matthews, I totally agree. No questions asked. Or like it's a Cabela's bow.
Sure.
Anything. Not that it's like, I don't know. I don't know the brand. Like you couldn't think of
not one.
Like
you couldn't just lie and just think of one. No, not a chance he does archery. And we beat up Zuckerberg pretty good here too. So I don't want to just focus on him because all the platforms were guilty. And actually there's an argument that Facebook was less guilty than some of the others.
Yeah,
Twitter
was pretty bad. Twitter was pretty bad, but I don't know. Facebook was pretty bad too. I feel like Facebook was even worse as far as like the fact checking went.
That I don't remember it well enough to. I honestly during COVID I didn't spend a whole lot of time on social media.
That's fair,
but. As far as the Biden administration goes, I mean, what they did to force tech censorship down our throats was completely fucked.
Totally agree.
So, all right, let's hit our next part. Well, just sticking to the theme of authoritarianism here. And we're going to get to a couple foreign policy things, but let's talk about the precedents he broke with weaponizing the DOJ. I don't think this is one that gets talked about enough because I know Trump wanted to downplay it during the election because he didn't want to seem like he was complaining and stuff, but it's time to talk about it. What Joe Biden did, okay, and you can make it wasn't Joe Biden that actually, charged Donald Trump. Joe Biden's the head of the Democratic Party. None of these liberal prosecutors do anything without a green light from Joe Biden.
Right.
And some of the prosecutors from Biden's DOJ actually went to go assist on these cases. Okay. Resigning from the DOJ to go help. So I don't want to hear this, it wasn't actually Joe Biden's fault. Yes, it was. Joe Biden and the Democrats were the first administration ever to prosecute their political opponent.
Yeah, I think it was really setting a dangerous precedent, one that I hope we can avoid in the future, really Trump's such a polarizing figure where it's kind of like, I feel like most presidential candidates, you probably can't get away with, I'm not familiar enough with presidential candidates, but say if JD Vance ran for president, there might not be anything you could fucking bring him to court for, or weaponize the DOJ against him about, he ran a red light 3 years ago. We got to bust his ass down, Trump, on the other hand, you could tell me Trump did just about anything, and I'd probably believe it.
Yeah, but I think that I have two main thoughts on this one. Number one is the old Stalin quote that seems to be a Joe Biden quote now, but show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the implication there is it doesn't have to be true. They can just lie about it. And the first thing that comes to mind is Brett Kavanaugh. Okay. There is no evidence this man committed a crime.
Yeah.
But in the court of public opinion, they tried to convict him of sexual assault.
Right.
And there's just no evidence it's true.
Right.
So what they will do is, even if you have never done anything like JD Vance, they will make it
a bad track record, or I shouldn't say a bad track record, but there is a proven history of falseness.
Yeah.
And not just in big political cases, but student athletes or professional athletes or whatever, just fucking random average guys.
Yeah.
Not just because you're accused of sexual assault doesn't mean it's true in such a sensitive area. Because well, how do you not believe the girl? Because chances are, statistically it probably did happen, but who knows, and there is totally some gray area there. And I don't know. It's just fucking tough.
with the weaponizing the DOJ thing, though, too, what they ended up convicting Trump on, okay, they had to, and here's to tell you how far they will go to convict somebody that did not even commit a crime, okay? They had to change New York state law
Yeah.
so that they could charge Donald Trump, okay? They changed it just for him so that they could go back and prosecute a paperwork crime that had to do with something he told banks how he was valuing real estate, and that he and that was one of them. The other one he actually got convicted on was that they wanted to convict him for lying on some tax form where he should have said that his non-disclosure agreement payments to a porn star were campaign contributions, but he made them with his own money. So they're saying he should have used campaign money to pay off the porn star instead of his own money, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right.
And that's some crime. And so then they had to upgrade it to a felony so that they could actually charge him. It was a sack of shit. There are so many more corrupt people in Washington that they had to bend over, but they bent over backwards to go after Donald Trump.
I totally agree. Completely. And like I said, I hope it's a precedent, or I hope it didn't set a precedent for, kind of trying to felonize your opponent,
And unfortunately, it may not have set a precedent for, this next election cycle, but somewhere along the line, somebody is going to do this again because,
just too damn easy to not.
Yeah. And here's the thing though. Here's my only silver lining with this. It didn't fucking work.
Right.
There was huge blowback, and I wouldn't say that this was, Joe Biden weaponizing the DOJ was a leading factor in why he lost, but it made Donald Trump more popular.
How Orwellian we get.
Well, Joe Biden certainly pushed us towards more Big Brother, because, I mean, it was just a precedent that I said this back in 2016, that I hope Donald Trump doesn't actually go through with charging Hillary Clinton with these crimes.
Right.
Because it's just better for our democracy to just not do it.
Right.
Okay.
I
if
agree.
you want to say, well, she mishandled classified information here or there, okay, fine. But if we're going to start prosecuting everybody in Washington who took, some letters home with them here, or, Trump had this at Mar-a-Lago and Biden had this.
Right.
This is not a tit for tat that we wanted to go down. Joe Biden started this.
I don't know. If we're talking tit for tat and we burn the whole fucking thing down, everyone goes to prison, we could be talking.
Well, I see what you're saying, but But Joe, I'm putting all the blame on Joe Biden for this one. This one was this to me, of all, God, there's so many egregious things. I don't even know if it's the most egregious. It's right up there. I mean, it's terrible.
No, I totally agree. I think they were just going to keep throwing darts until something stuck, I mean. But
to wipe away a 250-year-ish precedent of we don't prosecute our political opponents. And here's the worst part. Here's what pisses me off the most. They throw this precedent away. And this was when, Joe Biden was still running. They blew up one of the most important cornerstones of our democracy, that we don't imprison our political opponents, to try and give Joe Biden a better shot at winning. That's what's most infuriating to me. Like, this wasn't even like some close election they were trying to get a little leg up on. I mean, they blew it up for nothing.
Well, they were I feel like they kind of had to, in a sense of, if you're going to talk all this shit, say this is a bad guy, you just got to keep fucking acting like he's a bad guy,
You got to die with the lie.
Because, it wasn't even when they're trying, I felt the kind of same way when they're trying to impeach him, all the time, it's just a constant fucking battle for the guy, and I think that was just kind of a continuation of that.
Yeah. It sure made him a lot more popular, and it sure reinforced.
Yeah, I don't think it worked in their favor,
It reinforced his image as a gangster, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably got some African American votes. Baby mama, felon, fucking, what's the other one?
Shot.
Yeah, shot. Pretty much from fucking Crenshaw.
Yeah. Multiple wives, all that stuff. But no, I mean it. But to me, I mean, we just can't let this one slip past us. The weaponizing the Department of Justice is just beyond the pale for me.
I agree.
All right, so we got him there. Let's jump over to his foreign policy. And keep in mind, when Joe Biden won, one of the things MSNBC was telling us was that, Joe Biden, he's a foreign policy guy. Donald Trump, he's an amateur, but Joe Biden has been conducting foreign policy for decades. He did it as a senator. He did it as VP. He's the foreign policy guy.
Well, if your foreign policy is kind of like, well, we'll give you money and just do whatever you want, I guess it went pretty well.
Let's start with Afghanistan. Donald Trump leaves him with a deal to pull out of Afghanistan, okay, where we are going to completely exit the country. We're supposed to do it nice and orderly. We're going to bring a lot of our allies with us, okay? Joe Biden botches it so bad, 13 American service members get killed. Billions in equipment is left. We closed Bagram Air Force Base down before we finished evacuating. So we closed the Air Force Base and then tried to evacuate everybody out of the civilian airport.
Yeah.
No fucking sense. We couldn't defend it.
Well,
we weren't fortified.
I guess this just depends on what your foreign policy looks like. Because his relationship with, what's it called? Not Hamas, but Al-Qaeda.
Oh, the Taliban.
Or the Taliban. Yeah. Was probably pretty strong. You know? I mean, I bet he had pretty good policy with him at that point. I don't think they've ever looked so favorable upon us in the last, 20 or 30 years.
And, I like Donald Trump's policy better of, come here, Mr. Taliban man. You see this picture of your house? You decide why I have it. I don't
know. They just
I
fucking
don't know.
roasted in the caves the other day.
Yeah. But, so 13 soldiers get killed because this completely incompetent commander-in-chief decided he was going to close Bagram Air Force Base down and try and evacuate everybody out of the civilian airport. Thousands of our allies, you could see these people running on the runway, but the famous
clinging onto the plane.
Yeah, falling off. And when you think about it, how sad it actually is because these people know they're dead anyways.
Right.
Thousands of them were executed. All those people hanging onto the plane and stuff. They knew once the Taliban took over, they'd be killed. We abandoned them there. And then just to pour some salt in the wound, the president of Afghanistan, before, the one we had propped up, not the Taliban now, but the president we propped up, took millions of our foreign aid cash and dipped out of the country 2 weeks after we left. So the Afghanistan debacle is just, and it was Joe Biden's first big black mark. If you remember, this is one of the first things that happened.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was pretty early on in the regime.
And you just have to wonder, why did Joe Biden allow this to happen? It seems like we could have done this, pretty easily. But why wasn't every general involved with this fired? Nobody got fired over this thing.
I totally
13
agree.
dead Americans.
I mean, 13 dead Americans, say that didn't happen. It's actually cheaper to leave all that equipment there than it is to fly it back.
What would you say about someone who said that?
I'd say, now that guy should go to fucking prison.
We have a prison for those people. It's in Leavenworth.
Yeah.
It's perfect. How fucking just stupid, man.
I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, in one sense, I feel like, conspiracy theorists and me, who enjoyed leaving all that equipment there? The fucking military industrial complex who gets to make all new equipment.
Yeah. And resupply the Taliban now.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure will be funding. I think we're already funding the Taliban, actually.
If there's a way for us to fund every side of a conflict, I'm sure we're doing it.
So we decide that we're going to leave all our equipment there. They're flying our Blackhawks around, they're parading around with our tanks. They've got, millions of our cash. They executed our allies, killed our soldiers. And I remember one of the excuses Joe Biden gave was, well, our deadline to pull out, was just approaching
Right,
and we just
right.
had to. We're the United States military. They're the fucking Taliban. If we need an extra week to get our shit together,
Right.
tell them we're taking an extra
Right.
week or we're going to drop a drone on their heads. Like, do the Donald Trump shit. Call them back to me. Hey, we need another week. Here's a picture of your house. You don't have to wonder why I have it. You know why. We're going to take an extra week.
Just calm down.
Could you imagine you get Americans killed because you're worried about complying with a deadline the Taliban gave you?
Yep.
Fuck off, man.
I agree.
Fucking
I agree.
worthless piece of shit. To be okay. And that's not even, sadly, I mean, the most Americans did die in that one, which makes it on some levels the worst. But let's go to the Middle East now. Israel, Hamas.
Yeah, I'm just not familiar enough with this whole shebang, but it is polarizing.
He took the worst stance you could take. Okay. If we had been tough on Israel, okay,
Yeah.
and said, hey, we're not going to fund your war. You want to go in there and kill all Hamas and do all this shit, fine. But we're not going to give you billions for bombs for you to blow up all the civilian areas.
Right.
Okay. Well, they have, and Israel will say, well, they have tunnels. They're, using civilians as shields. Also, okay, fine. Okay. We're not paying for your war.
Right.
You could say they're not fighting fair, this, that, or any other thing. We're just not paying for it. Okay. Joe Biden could have taken that stance right in the beginning. Strong stance. What Israel could have done was retaliated in the ways that they normally do with a lot of assassinations. They could have even done a ground operation where they're not just carpet bombing the entire place.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. If they want to pay to carpet bomb somewhere, whatever, they can pay for that. We shouldn't have to pay for it. Or he could have taken the complete other stance. Joe Biden could have said, hey, you're holding Americans hostage. We're going to march the U.S. military in here now until we get all our Americans back, and we're going to fucking kill anybody who steps out here with a gun until you produce the Americans. And either one of those probably would have resulted in something better. Instead, Hamas held Americans for, I just saw one was released today, 480 something days, and Gaza's completely leveled. We got nothing we actually wanted out of this.
Well, I mean, we did spend taxpayer dollars on the American
billions.
American
And we're going to have to rebuild their housing. We're going to have to. I know Donald Trump is talking about, moving all the Palestinians out of the region. The United States is going to pay to build these people housing, whether it's in Gaza or Egypt or Lebanon or Jordan, Saudi Arabia. It doesn't matter. We're going to have to pay billions to rebuild what we spent billions to destroy, only to still have our Americans be hostage and just one of them just not released. Fucking ridiculous, man.
I hope. I mean, fuck. I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of. I just hear this shit and I'm just like, why are we even involved?
The fact that Donald Trump got a deal before he was even sworn in.
That just shows you how not involved Joe Biden was, really, and how all these world leaders knew fucking daddy was back in charge, Like,
there's a new sheriff in town.
Like, I don't need to fucking deal with dip fuck over there in front of the cameras while I'm dealing with his people behind the scenes. I'm just going to call the guy who's going to be calling the shots in 20 days that is probably going to be pissed if I don't call him right now.
Yeah. And the story goes, Donald Trump sent his diplomat over there to the Middle East, went to Qatar, spoke to the Hamas representatives, got the deal, went over to Israel, said, hey, I need to meet with Netanyahu now. They were like, no, it's the holy day, blah, blah. He's like, no, fucking bring him out here. They brought him out on the holy day, which they said had never happened before.
Right.
This diplomat told him, Trump says you're fucking signing it or you're not getting anything else from us. So Netanyahu signs it, and that's that. Deal's done. That was apparently the deal. And Trump wasn't even president yet. So, and here's what's most mind-blowing about it all, okay? This is some kind of a peripheral issue for us. Like, we hate that the government's spending all this money to, kill poor people, but the leftists really cared about this issue. Like this issue really divided the Democratic Party. There are a lot of Jewish people who back Israel in the Democratic Party. There are a lot of Muslims and even secular Middle Eastern people that are in the Democratic Party, and they were really torn in this issue, especially in the swing state of Michigan. And the fact that this was a political headache for Joe Biden during the entire election, like he had a real motivation to solve this problem if he could. Like this wasn't like the border issue where he was motivated to not solve it.
Right.
He wanted to solve this issue so he could win his election, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump does it in a couple days.
Right.
It doesn't even actually show up.
And I feel like with Trump, the people dealing with Trump kind of know that this guy's not here to bullshit. He's going to do what he says. He's saying this. You're either on board or you're going to fucking get plowed out of the way,
Yep. Like it or not. You're in America's world, baby. And then let's talk about the most deadly one, the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
What's your take here? Does this happen? If Donald Trump wins in 2020, does this war happen?
I don't think it does. And I'll be curious on how they resolve or what happens in the next year as far as resolving it, or if there's a continuation or whatnot. I do think it's interesting that Zelensky's now come out and said they've gotten under half of the dollars that were supposed to go to him, which doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But that should be a fucking treason investigation in itself.
Absolutely.
But just probably fucking maybe a smooth Billy went to the Biden's pockets.
Yeah, well, it definitely went to Hunter Biden. I mean, the whole pretext to this was Hunter Biden was getting paid on the Ukrainian Burisma board. Right.
So I've had this conversation before. I honestly don't think the Ukraine invasion happens under Trump, and half of it I think is because Putin would probably fucking not be here if it did.
Yeah, allegedly Donald Trump told Vladimir Putin when he was president that if he invaded Ukraine, Donald Trump would consider assassinating him.
Yeah.
Using a drone, dropping it. I think he says actual term was he would drop a missile through the Kremlin window.
Yeah. And that's could I see him saying that? Fuck yeah. Do I respect it? Fuck yeah. And would someone probably worse replace Putin as, commander in chief? Yeah, probably.
Yep.
But Putin also wants to live.
Yep.
So he's probably going to comply,
He's a rational actor.
I think Joe could have told Putin the same thing, and Putin would have laughed in his face and said, there's no fucking way you have the nuts. Where, it's kind of like Trump. You've kind of seen him do it on a lower level,
Yes.
Not so much of a major player, but I could fucking see it,
Yeah, I wouldn't be willing to bet my life that Donald Trump wouldn't drop a missile through my window. That's for sure. I think Putin felt the same way. Like, even if there's a 5% chance Donald Trump would drop a missile through your window, you're probably not going to do the thing.
And not only that, but, just how they handled the whole NATO thing and whatnot. I mean,
debacle.
I understand why Putin's trying to do what he's doing,
Kamala Harris helped cause this war by going to that conference and implying we wanted the Ukraine in NATO.
Right.
Which was just a nuts thing to do.
After we said we weren't.
Yeah, many times. After we said many times we wouldn't. And she did that, and that was Russia's red line, and there we go. Now we've got war. And then again, we take the stupidest approach possible. Okay? We don't want to go into a hot war with Russia. I'm going to be a little more reserved in my assessment here than I was in the Middle East, because at least in Gaza, Americans were held hostage.
Right.
There are no Americans involved in this war, at least not on any scale that I'm aware of, or that we're allowed to know of. So I wouldn't say that the route we should have taken was to just go in and crush Russia, militarily. They have nukes. They would unleash them before we got to Moscow. But what we should have done is said, hey, Europe, this is your shit. You're going to fund this.
Yeah.
Okay? Whether Russia swallows up Ukraine doesn't matter to us.
Right. That's what kind of gets me is how we end up paying 30, 40, 50 times more than the next guy
Yeah.
on everything.
Yep. And it's
is-
their shit.
Yeah. Yeah, we just kind of put ourselves in that world, what do you call that? Globalism,
Yep.
globalistic mindset, or I'm just kind of like, fuck, I'm more of a nationalist. Or I guess, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Nationalist?
I mean,
just like,
just more of an, anti-globalist
yeah,
is one some people
let's
use
just
too.
fucking worry about what's going on here, and
Sending billions to Ukraine, okay, to secure their borders. While 10 million people flood across our border, it just feels like treason.
yeah,
It
for
just
sure.
it just has that feel to it because we don't.
And even if there weren't people flooding across our border, just the general state of the country, like fucking, they never remediated, the damage in that fucking Michigan city from the train catastrophe.
East Palestine,
East
Ohio.
Palestine. The
Yes.
fucking Flint, Michigan water is still shit.
Yep.
Or East Palestine, that's Ohio, right?
Yes, but you're
Ohio.
right about Flint, Michigan. They still have water issues too.
Haven't done fucking shit to help out the Hurricane Helene victims. Got homeless people everywhere.
Yep. Veterans.
Got fucking people who can't afford to buy houses. Like, why the fuck are we spending all this money? Well, I know why we are, but why the fuck are we spending all this money, overseas when we can't even help out our own citizens? It's just the newest way to launder money is what it is.
Yeah, it's because the victims of Hurricane Helene didn't sit on Ukrainian energy boards.
Yeah.
So they don't get help.
Yeah. Or they're not on the fucking military industrial complex fucking panel or whatever, and
So this Ukraine war, man, we take the worst strategy possible. Okay. We spend billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and we get no results. Okay. A bunch of Ukrainian territory is going to be swallowed up anyways. We're going to have to make a deal on less favorable grounds. We should have negotiated into this war, a couple months after it started when Ukraine was kind of shocking the world on how well they were doing.
Right.
Now we got to negotiate from a position of weakness. And the whole thing's just been at the bottom.
But I guess that our position of weakness is also daddy's home. What do you want to do?
Yeah, there's that. But I mean, Donald Trump just doesn't have a great hand to play here. I mean, Congress has already appropriated, hundreds of billions of dollars.
Right.
It just, he was dealt a terrible hand by the Biden administration here. This is what happens when you leave a power vacuum here. And people will criticize Trump supporters for this, seeming paradox here. Oh, well, you don't want to go to war here, in Gaza. You don't want to go to war and fight Russia, but you are pro all Donald Trump's saber rattling all the threats he makes. It's like, yeah, because if we make them think we're going to go beat their ass, they're not going to act up. And then we don't actually have to go beat anyone's ass.
Right. I agree.
That's the point. We could go and, tell the Taliban we're going to show them pictures of their house and kill their leaders and threaten Putin and all this shit. We can drone strike some Iranian general when he comes into Iraq and, posture and shit.
Yep.
They're not going to call our bluff. Because if there's that little percent that we are going to go over there and kick their ass, they're not going to fucking
That's
act
all
up.
it fucking takes, baby.
But Joe Biden, too weak to do any of that, conduct any real foreign policy. And it's just so ironic, man, that Donald Trump, a guy who, and we'll just say, 2016 Donald Trump, no experience in foreign policy, had a better policy than George Bush, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, all these guys who they claim their whole shtick is their foreign policy guys, and their foreign policies are dog shit.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Frustrating.
Makes me sick.
Frustrating that Donald Trump comes in here and just shows everybody what's up. And I love too. I just saw today that a deal Donald Trump is making with Ukraine now. If they want the funding they've been appropriated to continue, they have to give us mineral rights to
nice.
important like what a businessman deal. Like
mineral rights.
If we're gonna give you money, we want equity, baby. We want
That
equity.
is good, buddy.
That's fucking hilarious.
I hear you have oil. We'll be over later.
It's kind of like the new oil they have there, quote unquote. Like it's a lot of chemicals for not nuclear energy, but I think it's a lot. Oh, it's a lot of noble gases for the microchips we need
Oh,
for
interesting.
AI.
Huh.
It's a lot of like argon and xenon, I think, and stuff like that. That they have this huge supply, and yet you need it for the manufacturing of computer chips.
Interesting. That is interesting.
So good for the Don. Get something.
Yeah. We might as well get fucking something, you know? I mean, fuck.
Yeah. You got any final comments before we close the chapter on Joe Biden's legacy?
I'd say we couldn't close it soon enough.
Yeah. For all of posterity, when you guys are listening to this 100 years from now, just know we knew from the beginning Joe Biden was senile. Nobody actually believed all the news shit that he was actually president.
It was actually a conspiracy theory that he was senile while he was running to be president.
Yeah. Yeah. We knew in 2020 he was senile. So just for all you guys later that are reading your history books that nobody knew and it was a surprise in the debate against Donald Trump, that's not fucking true.
Reading the history books about how the election was fucking stolen.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. All this shit. If you're reading, if your assignment, if you're a kid listening to this later and your assignment was Joe Biden a great president? Before you type it into the AI that tells you what to think, just know the answer is no. He was dog shit.
If you use Grok, you'll probably get the right answer.
What's in the future? There's just one dominant. It's Skynet.
Yeah, that's probably more like it.
All right, that's it. I think we beat him up pretty good. Not as much as he deserves. I don't think that's even possible.
I don't think that could ever possibly happen, in my opinion.
No, me neither. But I think that's it. I think we'll call it a wrap.
Wrap it up. Couldn't come soon enough.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.